Mariama, you were born in Guinea a few years ago, and into a large family of dyers. You are the daughter and the granddaughters of dyers. You lived in Senegal, but for the last 20 years, you are living in New York. And even though from the continent, you have created many businesses, a foundation, and many projects aimed both at developing local resources and at having a social impact, especially on women. Right? Until now, it's okay?
Yes.
Okay. So you created Mariama Fashion Production. We can see a picture of you some of fabrics you are doing. This company is based in Abidjan today. You have a workshop. Is it inside Abidjan, right?
Well, yes, it's in Abidjan, but also in Guinea. I think I will get a few seconds to do a quick intro also about that, and then we're going to have fun and answer questions.
Many production workshops or textile brands dream of exporting, but how do you understand markets and trends to create products that meet needs?
I think you have to really make sure first that you are using the right material. For me, material is key for me because as a textile designer, I need to create products that have a good quality. So I will think about also the colors, right? When you're doing something, you want the colors to be really well, but you also have to understand first, who are you working with? So today is very specific because you're living in Lagos, but you want your work to be internationally. So it's very important for you to do market research. It's very important. So it's very easy to say, yeah, I want to be like Mariama, I want to be the next big things, but you need to put effort. We are not here to sugarcoat something, we are really here to do the right deal. I'm here not to only share with you my success, but to also share with you my struggle and the things that I understand. So I think you should definitely do market research, and you cannot be shy. You know, I'm a big dreamer, that's one of the things she haven't put, but I think everything that I was able to achieve, first I think here, and the second, I do research, and third, I'm not afraid to go after what I want. So I would say really do your market research, make sure that everything that you're doing is good, know who you want to work with. It's not because you are in Africa that you cannot shoot for Hermes, but if you shoot to do for that person, you have to understand first what they like, what type of material, and what kind of a quality they want. So the quality control will be something very important in this fight.
Yeah, but how do you do and where do you do these researches when you don't have the means, to attend the fair trades, for example?
Very good. Today, more than ever, I think we have so much opportunity. We have technology. Everybody is on Instagram today. Everybody is online. It's literally, everything is accessible. You can go to Google. So what I will do, if it happens that you have some money, then you should definitely attend some webinar. There's a lot of events going on. I will share a few things with you. You should follow great companies like WWD, where they talk about fashion, business of fashion. You need to follow Text World. They do a lot of things online. So if you don't have money to travel to go this kind of stuff, you can definitely follow this magazine that can share trends, but definitely everything is available for you. Also, what you can do, today you can reach out to people online. This season, Amal Clooney reached out to me via Instagram. At first I was like, okay, it may not be her, but yes, it was her. You can also reach out to her, she will answer to you. So don't be shy because you don't have access to go. You have to be bold. You have to understand what you want, and you need to be good at what you're doing.
Is it always easier and efficient to have integrated craftsmen instead of working with subcontractors?
This is a great question. So here you have challenges with both, right? When you have your own studio or you want to create your own studio, of course it demands more money, more infrastructure, so you have to be able to set up your studio the right way. So that's the thing, if you don't have that much money, that's the problem. But the good things about it that you have the quality control. You can actually see what your artisans are doing, you can communicate with them, you can make changes. In case of any trouble, you can fix it and nobody can know, right? And also it saves you money to travel. The second thing is that if you don't have that much, you can kind of collaborate with artisans from abroad, but that makes the communication more difficult, right? Because something can go wrong. So that's what I said, both is good. One, you save money. The other one, you don't save money, but it could be trouble. But I would say, if I was a brand designer, I'm so busy. to create the design. I'm so busy to make sure my product will be in the store. I think wanting to do my own textile could be a lot. That doesn't mean that you cannot do, but it's very important for people to know, everybody to know what is their strength. So I think you should definitely leave that section to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Because you have your own studio with your own artisans, but you are also working with nearly 1,000 artisans all over Africa, right? Because you are not doing only tie and dye, but also hand painting, weaving, many other things, right?
And for example, yes, for example, for me, I do design, but I also have my textile. But I went into design, yes, because I mean, I've been in New York actually for 22 years, not 20. And I was a first fashion model, so I had the chance to be on stage, to work in front of the camera, behind the scenes, so I understand fashion in every asset. I was also a professional makeup artist, so everything I cannot do, I understand it, knowledge so important. But I think the reason why I really decided to do my own brand is it wasn't more because of me, but it was to create job for my artisans. So I just didn't want to rely on brands by bringing them textile all the time and them not paying me all the time. I was like, okay, I need to find a plan B. In case if a brand doesn't order from me, I can always bring back job to Africa because I do have a different kind of vision. This is something that is very important as well because when you enter into something, you need to understand why am I doing this. For me, if you look at every business I own, I want to empower my continent. I started traveling at 12 years old. Yes, I was very fortunate to have a lot of things and I could have just stayed in New York and lived my life, but I always thought of my continent because for me, first of all, a business that just think of money is a very poor business. And that's exactly why, even though I am hurt, I took 12, 13 hours from New York to come and to speak to you. It's not about the money, but it's about that knowledge exchange. It's not even only that, it's the fact that I can see you guys and we can exchange, and many things can be built from here. So yeah, definitely, if you decide to start your business, you always have to think about your community. This is the new Africa, because today our continent, we no longer need the hands out. What we need is partnership. But thank you so much. And to make that happen, you really have to invest in what you're doing. Just because you are a designer, and I know it's so attractive, you think about the fashion show and all that, but it's not all. You also have to think sustainably. You have to think about the waste. You have to think how I can really advance my industry, not only for myself, but for my entire continent.
Okay, how do you set up an efficient production process, including an efficient and sustainable supply chain?
Great question. So basically, if we can think about this in different ways, right? Before, for example, when I started my first production, I set up my organization in 2008. But one thing that needs to be also known is that the first time I was introduced to textile, I was 4 years old. So for me, textile is not a hobby, it's in my DNA. It's something that I have seen my mom doing, my mom's sisters doing, and my grandmother used to be a famous textile designer. So I'm just carrying basically a family tradition, something that I was so inspired by Italians. If you look at the Italian brands, it's always something that the mother started. If you look at all the French brand also, it's coming from that. So basically it's very important to understand also my background. So when I first started, of course, I did textile like everybody else, right? I wanted to first come in contact with the artisans and to work. Of course, they were working with that face mask. It wasn't as sustainable. They were throwing things on the floor. And I was like, what can I bring to make them better and to do better? So first of all, I started to train them. It's all about skill training. You cannot advance if you're not bringing something more into what you already found. So for me, it was to educate first my artisans about how to make textile in the right way, in the clean way, but moreover, how to protect themselves. And this protection thing was very important because now I know more. When I started going back to Africa, I saw a lot of artisans that was getting sick because sustainability is not only about tie-dye. Sustainability is not only about dyeing. Sustainability also is about human being. The artisan that you are working with, it is so important. You know, many people just think like, okay, I'm going to come make the fabric and leave. You are making the fabric with somebody. And if you cannot change their life, you're only changing your life, again, you are a poor business because you're only making the money, but you're not bettering the life of the artisans. So yes, to build a sustainable manufacturing or workshop
and supply chain
is a lot that need to be think of. You need to think about responsible production.
Is it important, for example, to have at least 2 or 3 suppliers for each type of textile in case there is a problem with one or in the event of a late order?
So in this case, I think I would take an example. Let's say you have a Chanel who decide to work with you, and so you have 2 choices, right? So, and also to be to the level that we mentioning now, the production need to be set up, of course, and you need to make sure that you have materials. For example, what I'm wearing, I can tell you maybe I'm the first one to introduce this fabric in the United States because I put this in New York Fashion Week, and one Tory Burch kind of saw me and she said, "Can you make my textile in 2 weeks?" Honestly, I was young, I was passionate, it was my first big break. I look at my sister and I say, "Yes, I can do it." Bullshit. Of course, I went back because this is the big things, you know. I was like, okay, I went to Guinea, where I have 300 women under our organization who make tie-dye. And in Guinea. Yeah, the Tory Burch collaboration was made in Guinea. And it was through my non-for-profit organization. Like I told you guys, for me, that's very important to make sure that the artisans are great and then they can do something for themselves. And of course, I freaked out because I said yes to somebody that is so particular about things. And so I came back with my childhood knowledge, my mother. So it's good to involve your family. I connect so much with your father's story. I was like, oh my God, it's not such a coincidence that we are all here because we share really something. My mom was there, and I did less than 2 weeks. And when I came back, I was there and I saw her calling an entire team. I was like, okay, what's going on? I messed up, and said, you should respect this woman. What she have done, even Italy cannot do it in 2 weeks. She did it last, really. And for me, of course, she asked me, how can I reward you? I could have been really selfish because I was quite young in 2012. I could have just said, talk about Mariama. I was shaking and said, I want people to know about the artisans, the women who make this textile. I want people to know where I'm coming from, because when you say Guinea in New York, they say Papua New Guinea. It's every Guinea but my Guinea. Guinea pig. It's every Guinea but my Guinea. So I said, yes, please make that. And my friend was like, are you stupid? You could be the next big things. And I said, no. Again, today, that is very clear to me that from the beginning, I understood that if my business was only focusing on money, that it was a poor business. So it was all about the women that we were empowering. So you see, it's very important when you're building these kind of things to think beyond. And to be honest with you, the future of fashion is sustainable. The future of fashion is not about oneself. The world has changed. And I can tell you I'm part of those activists because I'm sitting on the board, actually, of the Fashion Impact Fund. We cannot decide on a lot of things. And that's why you saw me on the billboard, because I was among the women who are doing things for the planet and for the people. So that's very important because that's the future of fashion. Soon, your consumer, they already started asking in Europe, in America, how the clothing are being made. So it's very important as a designer for you to understand that every clothes you made, it has to represent the person, the artisan that is making that. Yes, they matters. If you really want to go to the next level, because you will be questioned sooner or later.
How did you go about creating an effective and sustainable ecosystem with your artisan, and how did you get their loyalty? Because this week again, I met designers telling me how difficult it was to get their loyalty.
I will say not payment because, for example, I don't know about everybody, and then I think we had this discussion. I was like, if I'm going to share something today, I want to be transparent. If you look at any of my interview, I don't sugarcoat because I don't want tomorrow somebody to say I'm lying. So I like to be myself. I don't know how others work, but for me, the first thing I like to do with my artisan is human connection. I don't see my artisans as artisans. I see them as a partner. And this is something that I have in my non-for-profit from the beginning. For example, the women we help, even though it's a charity, we don't call them poor women. We call them our partner. So I think once you already come towards somebody that way, you come to him with respect. So I will say respect first, right? Because many people come to Africa and they want to work with these artisans. I would take an example in Côte d'Ivoire, where I've been working for a lot. I think I have done more in the Ivorian textile than an Ivorian person. So, Seriously, I think I've been working there for a while and I have fight for their right. Let's say somebody just want to work with them, they pay them 1000 francs CFA, 1,000. And these artisans feel like, okay, it's good and it's working like this, but at the end of the day, you remain poor. So we need to talk about fair trade because in the beginning we talked already about well-being, right? Where they need to be protected. We talk about a little bit about how you should make your textile sustainable. So we have to talk about
Fair practices.
fair trade, fair trade. Fair trade, I mean paying the artisans in the very right way, right? Paying him above what is already gaining in the market, even 3 to 4 times. But now, this is a big problem. A lot of production company, when they do that, they shoot themselves in the foot. This year, yes, I did introduce my new organization called a company called Design for Unity, is for a reason. Because a lot of artisans, a lot of activists are broke. You understand? A lot of designers are broke. So I was also telling Emmanuelle, I say, I'm a big activist for artisans, but I don't want you to be broke either. So how can we fix the fact that you don't go broke, the artisans are not hurt, and the brand is okay? Something that I have done for a long time is knowing your value. Very important. If you don't know your value, who's going to know your value? So first, you doing something that is handmade. You know how much it is a handmade product in white people's country? Hello? Do you hear me? Sorry. In the Western world, handmade is very important. So why, when they come to Africa or anybody want to buy our product, don't take it seriously? Yes, I have fought for this for many years. When people saw my things and they say, oh, this is cheap. No, it's not cheap for me. I know my value. And my textile, to be honest with you, the cheapest is $27.50. You want it, you buy it. It can go to $90. And it could go beyond that. I will make sure that I'm covering my cost, because if I have to take my flight to come to New York, to come to Africa, even if I take the economy, it's already maybe 2,000, 3,000 something. So I need to make sure that that is off already. What about my stay? And also know your value, because when you're beginning, you probably don't have name for yourself. And I think from my level today, yes, I deserve to be paid more than that. And I can tell you, I have never spoken in a platform like this in the past, but today, I learned this last year that I need to first respect myself, because if God has given me the opportunity to be there, so that means I am a voice. So it is time for me to tell the other Africans, you are enough. And if they don't buy it, well, they won't have it. You know? If they don't buy it, then they won't have it. If we all tell ourselves, this adire that we're making, the artisans, because they have to put the wax on it, you need to think about the time to wash that. It's ours. And it's like a painting. So why not respect the work of our artisan like Picasso? We have to know that and to move forward toward that. Okay?
Okay, so how can we put in place an ethic production?
Well, first of all, to do that, I think many people don't have the right money first to even create this, okay? And for the past 7 years, I have been in many conferences, including Union, African Union, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of blah, blah, blah. We don't need that. The creative industry, we need money. So how can you set up? Because right now, if I say, let's set up, I'm talking blah, blah, blah. Because how can they set up? Yes, today I will share something with them that they're going to go home, but how can they accomplish this? Having this kind of conversation is great, but you know what is even important? When we have it and we have some money set up for you to go home. Don't you want that? So that's good. So we need to, don't be afraid, don't be shy. You know, change comes when somebody is able to talk about it. Change comes when one person says, no, I'm no longer going to do this. Enough is enough. So to set up these kind of things, they need to have funding. Once they have funding, they can do the right thing. Because if I'm going to do something sustainable, something that is great, and you invite me to work for you, don't expect me to work for $1,000. I don't. I just said earlier that I knew my value. So the money needs to be enough for you to pay your artisan fairly, for you to fix your studio the right way, for you to be able to, if you're a designer, to create your pattern, because Africa have the best entrepreneur in the world, and Africa also have the best tailor, because for me, a best tailor, you know what it is? It's not somebody who went to FIT, but it's a person that is able to look at something and replicate. Do we have that anywhere in the world but Africa? Come on, let's give an applause for Africa. We are enough. Really, really. So definitely we need to have funding to be able to organize that. Either it's a design world, it's a production, you need to buy your parts. And of course, if you want to go natural dye, it's more things to do. Then that means you have to hire people that can come even one time to train your artisans. Okay? So exactly, I will go back to your other question about how to make the artisans to stay. These are some of the things you can make them stay because they see in value now. They know that they are not somewhere where they're going to be for 1 week and they're going to leave. They're seeing a vision. And you have to be able to communicate that vision within themselves because they said, okay, if I work with Mariama, first of all, she's somebody who would defend my right. She's somebody who will pay me fairly. And she's somebody that I can have a long-term work with them. And you know, one thing I don't do? I don't own my artisans. Just because I train them, that doesn't mean you're not going to work with them. Maybe that make them leave a lot of time also when they feel like they can be here and then they're watching you to have like 1 million and they only have in 10 naira. Of course, bye-bye. He will learn and leave. You know, when my artisans come to my house in Abidjan, they say, oh, madame, it's so beautiful. I said, don't say it's beautiful. I want you to say, I can have it too. And you have to think, again, sustainably. Like you have to think like, okay, what can I do for these artisans? I will go back to that because I'm a humanitarian, unfortunately. I have to always defend their right. So you have to see what else can I do for my artisan beyond. If your artisan is working with you and you find out, do you have a kid? Do you understand these people, they're human? They also have a home and problem. They also want to travel. If you start to ask them this question, you will find out that your artisan is married. And you will find out that his wife is a tailor. So what can you do? Maybe you can offer a sewing machine. You see, you're working with these artisans within here, but when he go home, you have given him something else that can make him to reproduce his work and to be able, in his turn, to be somebody and to transfer the knowledge. So there is no like, okay, I own you, I don't own you, but so that's what it is. But sign contract. Africa also is changing, right? Because we know a lot of people now copy people because it was before the mama come and say, hey, pardon, hey, forgive my son, oh, don't take him to jail. Those times has changed. Now you steal somebody's stuff, you have to be responsible for it. So when you have the artisan, you have to teach them. Sign a clear contract with them. I think that will really set also the tone, and the contract doesn't have to be 5 years, that's like being in jail. But, you know, go as it works.
Okay, and this is why now you are not, because you are living in New York, you have your team in Abidjan, and you are not obliged to come back to Abidjan when you have an order. For example, I was speaking about Emmanuelle Courrèges, you know, George Clooney's wife, who ordered you pants, some pants just before living in Africa. So you ask your team in Abidjan to do it, and they made it in 2 days, 3 days maybe, without, you were in New York. So it was for WhatsApp, right?
I work through WhatsApp now. That's so cool. No, seriously. But I will still charge my client though. But that wouldn't change anything. But yes, I think I'm so comfortable with my artisans now that I'm able to do certain work by distance. But of course, if I'm going a little bit more, I want to go to do quality control. Yes, I want to be relaxed. But because of my image, you said something, you are your own brand. I think I am doing this same thing today. I'm still in the game because I'm very particular, almost a perfectionist. You know, I rather like lose the fabric, but I need to give to my client what they have asked for. But because I have trained few artisans in my studio, I have a master weaver, I have a master tie-dyer, I have a master painter. So I know exactly if I need to do something, who I'm going to bring that will lead like me. So you see, I'm transferring also the knowledge. I'm not being selfish about it. So this one person, I teach him and I told them, you know, what is important for me. If you ask any of my employees, either my skincare, they will say, Madam Camara, visual. I love the visual. I like when things are perfect. So I'm giving them the eye, my work ethic, so they can understand. So it's very easy if we work via WhatsApp, for them to send me the photo, for me to accept it, but also another quicker way is to do DHL, so I can see everything while
But
I
it's
am
a
in New York.
cost. It's a cost.
One thing in Africa, I don't know about Nigeria yet, but DHL, for example, in Ivory Coast, they have a great deal for people who have, right now, she said yes. Yeah. You can send, for example, today to send 2 kilograms in New York, I pay 15,000 safer. That's nothing. A fabric, that's not even a 1 kilogram, so I can send it easily. Because we want, for so long we say, yeah, I talk about respect and stuff, but if you want to be respected, then deliver something good as well, right? You're not going to expect to give people something a bit crooked just because I'm an artisan, I'm a poor woman. No, that doesn't work for me either. The same way I protect you, the same way I want you to also give the client the best things, because that's the only thing we can push the African fashion industry to become the best, is for us to be quite anal about everything.
Okay, so you talked about quality control. This is a key stage of the production. But maybe one of the most important point for Mariama was the quality of the materials. Can you tell us why? At the beginning, it's a beginning of the chain. Why?
Yeah. For me, material is everything, because you cannot talk about quality without the touch. To be honest with you, this dress I'm wearing is from Toast. I made this for Toast.
An American brand?
No, British.
A British
it's
brand.
It's a British
Yeah,
brand,
right.
and I have to say they're one of my favorite, and that's why I've been wearing it over and over again. And why I like Toast, first of all, because that was the first time ever I worked for a client who took his inspiration from Africa. It was the old lady from Africa. It was our home, and they said, we want exactly like Africa. So basically, I'm wearing it. I've washed it many times. It's still here. I can tell you that I will have this dress as long as possible. So yes, the material is good. Many people overlook this fabric, but it's the Bazin fabric. It's the cheapest one you can ever have in Africa. But you have to know how to work with it, right? Some people do it and it's stiff. It's wearing something similar, but in a softer, gorgeous way. So yes, the material is very important. And also the practice, right? That's an excellent. I have to say that's one of the best I have seen.
This is silk, right? Yeah.
That's perfection. Honestly. Yes, when you were talking, I was like, okay, I want to steal that. But that said, this is quality. This is quality. I don't need to touch it. I don't need to go close to it. It speaks for himself, what you made. So that's important, but because he used a very nice material, the finish was good. The artisans who made it, make sure that he had the right placement. Correct? He placed it very well, and it has that little vintage kind of look. So that's great. That's quality control. Because after the artisan finish, you have the right to just go like, goodbye. But no, he didn't do that. He looked at it, and he knew it was good, and that's why it's out. But some people don't pay attention to that. So they just go like, I wish you spoke French because I was going to make you laugh, but no. The artisans, they come, they finish something, they start scratching their head. And yeah, you ask them like, okay, I want green. In this green, you have a blue. And then you're like, okay, but I asked you to give me like a forest blue. It's not me, it's a dye. It's always not me, it's a dye. What do you mean it's the dye? In the market, one day they bring this color, tomorrow it's this one. Bullshit. So that's also about quality control, but moreover, you have to have patience. You have to wet the fabric. If you're making this dye, you have to know the amount of water, the amount of color that's going to be there. If you have one big pot and you dye in the fabric, you cannot just come and throw 100 fabric inside. Of course, you will have a little blue and a little green. Or some of them will be too blue and some of them too light. So you have to be able to control that as well. The finish, the dye, the material.
You told me about...
And wash it very well.
And cleaning the fabric before using it, right?
Yes. So it depends on the technique, right? In Senegal, in Guinea, Mali, they love when the bazin is totally shiny. I don't like that. So if you don't like that, then if you're doing batik, then you have to wash this first. If you do in natural dye take like a much more work than regular dye, because you have to know how to fix it. And when I work for Edam, it's a brand that was owned by Bono and Louis Vuitton. So I worked for the first time with a group of men in Côte d'Ivoire, yeah. And so, of course, first of all, they didn't take any rules from a woman. Like, a woman can talk to me. I was like, for this season, yes, I'm going to have to talk to you. But they did the first weave, and when I sent it to America, as soon I didn't do my quality check for once in my life because I trusted them so well. And then it was all over the body of the clients because they didn't fixate, right? So that's why now at Mariama Fashion Production, we are launching our first yarn for the artisans in the continent made with natural dye. So now you're going to have this yarn. You can weave your stuff with it. People wear it. Not only that you wouldn't run, but also it's good for your body, right? There is no chemical, which is so important. So yes.
Just because you are speaking about clean products and not chemical products, you are also using, I forgot to tell that, this is really important, you are only using vegetables dyings, right?
Not only.
Not only?
Because to be honest with you, when you do an atelier, it's still very difficult. But you can use a non-toxic dye.
Okay.
Or what will happen is that the fabric will come out, but it will give you a vintage stuff. So basically, just before COVID, I started a new program in New York. It was to know the distance between FIT is one of the biggest fashion schools. So we did a collaboration with one of the teachers. She made my dream come true because I was always like, I want to bring natural dye to my continent. And it was when the UN picked me to do my first fashion show. It was in 2016. I was going, she ran after me and said, I can help you. I want to go to Africa. I said, if you want to help me, you got to bring natural dye. She said, I'm a teacher and at FIT. So we said, okay, we're going to go. We start raising funds. And we wanted to do the distance between FIT and the Republic of Guinea, where my women work. We did our first workshop in Côte d'Ivoire, where we were able to teach the artisans in Adjamé, one of the poorest area, and of course in Grand Bassam, and then we went in Guinea. In one day, we were able to make hundreds of colors. Yes, we brought some colors from America,
Incredible.
but what we did, we also looked into the local things. You know what I like to dye with? It's onion skin. It's onion skin. With onion skin, you have few things, right? Number one, is a zero waste, right? Now you're in the kitchen. Now, woman, you can go and tell your husband, I want to buy a lot of onions. You don't throw it away. You can enjoy the good onions and you can keep it. So we wanted to look around what is in Africa that we can dye with. You have the turmeric. You have avocado. How many of you eat avocado and throw the skin away and the things? We dye with that.
And today you have a team, I think that is in the United States who can train teams in Africa.
Yes.
Artisan workshops.
Yes.
Okay.
We started and we wanted to continue. Of course, the COVID came. Nobody will travel then. But we're going to do it again to be able to give this kind of training. And the training is good. That's why I said funding needs to be available for you.
How long it takes? To train a workshop?
Well, it depends on how much money the person has. But that's why institution has to bring you. No, but because it's a joke. But when we do it, it's me and one person, and we will really get everybody involved. Unless you really want like a more, but then we will teach you how to do it. But yes, if we do more than just that.
Mm-hmm. Mariama, international orders means often increasing the production. Mm-hmm. And how do you increase production precisely while maintaining quality and ethical standards?
But when you say how do you increase quality, what do you mean?
No, increase production.
Yeah, so when you mean increase production, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. How do you increase production while maintaining
the volume? Yeah,
the quality and ethical standards?
Yeah, so basically, first of all, if you have a production company, one of the things that is good is being able to do capacity building. Capacity building is very important. And I think that's what is making most people struggle in the continent is that it's good to make 100 pieces, but how do you do 10,000 pieces and everything look the same? That's one thing I'm very good at. Somehow, I don't know how. But yes. Because of, again, we go back to what we said in the beginning, understanding how many fabric, how many colors, how many things will go. And then, yes, that's the first thing that need to go. So these things apply to everything. If you think about everything that I just said, either you have a small production or large-scale production, you can kind of maintain that. But of course, that also requires to have more artisans in place because if somebody asks you to do 100 yard, that's easy. But if you have a 10,000 yard, and it could happen because last minute designer can just see a fabric and say, that's exactly what I want. Can you bring it for me in 3 weeks? So you gotta be ready. So it's important to focus also on skill training.
How do you develop a scalable growth model?
So basically, I think is I'm going to repeat myself again, but because I have already gave the great foundation into this. If you want to do a scalable, you need today to think sustainably. Okay, you have to think of responsible. You have to think about responsible production. That is so important. Responsible production, fair trade, because you cannot forget the human being that is working behind this clothing. You have to think about training. These artisans are very well trained. You have to have your space. You have to understand the person that you're also working with, because today most people want to work with international brands, but you gotta understand them. You gotta know the trend. You gotta know the color. You're just not gonna go, nobody gonna go for a super folkloric color. I mean, I'm not being rude, but if it doesn't look good on the client, then it doesn't look good on the client. So first of all, you need to understand, if you decide to work in Norway, obviously you're gonna be dressing a lot of white people, right? So you know that certain colors doesn't even go with them, right? You cannot give them like a mixed yellow and green. It just doesn't work for them. One of the colors that actually sell a lot is blue. If you guys look, I work a lot with blue. Blue is one of the things that really sells. So you want to really make sure that, you know, your production company, your artisan, you yourself, you're following trend, you're doing research, you are making sure that you're doing responsible production, that your artisans are well protected, and that you're ready to go to international market. And marketing, you need to be able to tell your story. I think that's what you're so good at. And, you know, being able to market yourself and tell your story the right way. And also for the client to even come to you without you asking. There's a lot of people in Africa, but I think Amal came to me because our story was the same. She said, I'm coming to Africa to do a work. Who's the designer in Africa who does the same thing? Somehow my name came out because I do human rights. She does human rights. I do empowerment. She loved that. So basically, she would rather wear my clothes than to wear somebody else's clothes, just because otherwise it doesn't match. Why? Because she knows also what she doesn't want to cross, right? Because if she wears something and if it's badly made, then she can get critiques. So you have to be also ready. Scaling is not just making the production beautiful, because otherwise it becomes a waste of time. Who want to waste their time? You want to have this because you want to get the job.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your experience, for all the insights you gave us.
I really hope that, honestly, if it's one thing you're going to take home today, is for you to be a change agent within your industry. Don't even think fashion. Fashion is changing. You have to be a disruptor. You know, I came in, I did my thing. Tomorrow, if I decide that I don't want to do textile anymore, I think I have reached my peak. Because when I came in New York, they didn't respect the African textile, the made in Africa, and I say, I will do it, and that's why I'm there. And I have reached basically everything I set for myself. And I think really I was able to succeed because I didn't go myself, I'm going with a tribe. So you have to understand that when you're building your stuff, that you need to take the next place. The seat, and this is one thing I really want to say, because it's very common in our community where Mariama is there, is for me. It is not for you. When I go to the United Nations and I'm speaking and I said, this seat that I have now is for every young girl in Africa. Then I go to Guinea, because that's where I'm coming from, and I go to the world for every girl and every immigrant. So I want you to always also think about that. Thank you so much for having me.